Good evening, Aatika. Thank you so much for making the time to be here. Oh, and thank you for submitting your report on time. That is, you have no idea the weight off of my heart from that one. Yes, it's been a journey, and we had the whole week to enjoy your report and to think of some questions. So thank you. Really, the pleasure is all mine. Okay, so I'm gonna firstly pass to Jerry, who's got some, I wouldn't say necessarily questions, but just some thoughts expressed by some of the other panelists who can be here today. And then we'll come back and just discuss some of your work since last panel.
Okay. Hi, Aatika. I'm going to read it so criticism from my side is that the fact that it has been pushed back, even though COVID cannot just being pushed back. It is constantly around us. Awareness should be raising either way, especially with measurements being scrubbed now. And many students potentially feeling uncomfortable. So this is about making everyone feel safe and comfortable, and should not be pushed back at the end of March, meaning the academic year of many will be over by then, as this is the end of the term too.
Am I allowed to respond to that, or do I?
Yeah.
All right, brilliant. So no, I absolutely agree with you. There are lots of students who are feeling uncomfortable, and I do think that it has been pushed back farther than I would have liked or anyone else would have liked. We did have the campaign. It was a bit of a, I guess we'd say, a really soft launch of the campaign in the beginning of the academic year. What I wanted to do with this relaunch was really to just go harder with it. By the time we sort of decided, or I sort of decided that I wanted to relaunch the campaign, this was around October time, when I was running Black History Month. And then with November, December, there was just a lot that was being taken on around that time. So I thought it was more sensible for me to push it back, just so that I can actually cater to the reactionary work that I was doing. So it definitely is one of those things where I felt like that was the only choice really, was to push it back. I did have some staff members tell me perhaps it's better that because it's not one of your big campaigns, perhaps it's better that you just axe it completely. But I'm a bit stubborn in that I feel like once I started something, I do want to complete it, at least in some capacity. And even if it's something that the students right now are not going to benefit from, hopefully it's something that students to come will still be benefiting from. And even though it's not the infographics, myself and us as SU officers will still continue to keep reminding students: wear your masks, sanitize, be mindful where you can, especially in light of the government guidance that will be coming out in next week, I believe, or the week after that. So it's something that's still going to be happening. Like I said, it's a running campaign. It's not something that has a particular date. That was really just for the infographics to be launched. But it's definitely something still that we're going to be pushing students to do, being conscious of the reality of this virus.
Alrighty. Yes, so like I said, wasn't really a question, but a comment from another one of our panelists who isn't here. And then it's interesting hearing a response to that, because that was kind of my balance towards it. Because my reasoning was, of course, there are so many other things that are going to, occupy your time, and especially a lot of that student mandated work, and student priorities, and so many things that are quote unquote unpredictable that might just appear, that will take up all of your time. So I wasn't too perturbed at that campaign not taking the forefront, because you have other things that are your priorities. So that's not really a huge concern for me, but we air the views of the people because we're a democracy. Okay, so Could you share maybe in about a 2-minute summary of some of the work that you've taken since last panel, and any key points of impact that you believe that you've made?
Absolutely. If I can just gonna quickly pull up my document. Ooh. Yeah, so some of the things since the last panel really were just follow-ups, but there are several things which stick out. So since the last panel, I launched the Know Your Black Britain exhibition, which, can I just say, like, I'm incredibly proud of. And one thing that I do want to really emphasize is this was entirely my own work, curated, the material, the resources compiled. In retrospect, was it wise for an officer to take on all of this work? Probably not. But one thing that I am sure of is, because of the pieces that I put together. So what it is basically is 20 at its reduced form right now, the way it's printed, it's about a dozen or so items, but the full exhibition is about 20 something items on Black Britain, past and present, from conversations that are going on to, you know, bits of history that I feel people don't know enough about. And it, you know, I think that this is a really sustainable piece, because the way that it's written about is really in a timeless manner. I'm not speaking about it with reference to, you know, October of 2021 or Black History Month, February 2022. I want this to be something that the SU can use again and again, you know, because sometimes we do recycle our material. And I think that this is something that, you know, I'd be happy if, you know, years and years in the future, they're still, you know, using this material, because, you know, history doesn't change, conversations that are happening don't change, and this is something that students can always use. And yeah, so that's one thing that I've been that I have executed since last time. Another thing is consultation groups that I've been working on. I've been working really closely with our project and campaigns manager, Ben, to come up with a consultation plan for the IHRA working definition of anti-Semitism. We held one of the consultations. It didn't have the take up that we wanted it to have, although we're not giving up just yet. We're just going back to the drawing board and seeing how we can actually get more and more students to take this on. The reason why I'm insisting on us going back to the drawing board is because I don't want any decisions to be made and students to be left out of the consultation process. Even if it's a handful of students, it still is some sort of representation of what students want. So that's something we're going back to the drawing board on. Of course, it's currently Global Fest, working with Jabed on executing some smaller areas of it. So that's something that's really exciting. Yes, and equal access to uni work. That has taken a tiny bit of a break over the past few weeks, because the officer from Westminster that I'm working with, Zara, is rerunning for president, and it's currently her elections period, so that's what she's working on. But this is something that I've been meeting up with the team about, and working on, trying to reach students' unions across the country. And yeah, that's I guess, you know, some of the little things I've been working on. One thing that I'd also like to really mention is feedback on the student success sub strategy that I've been doing with all of the officers, I guess, but also very closely with Neela. Yeah, I'd like to think that the university have taken on a lot of our feedback and a lot of our ideas, and we will continue to meet with them going forward.
Great, thank you. We were actually just speaking with Neela concerning that sub strategy. So it's good to hear that it's not just the university on a one-man bagging, just bagging, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean? Bandwagon, thank you, that's the word. Going just on a tangent, but of course that there is feedback and input from our officers and by proxy from the union and by proxy from the students. So that's good, that's great. So your Black Britain campaign and traveling exhibition. So what do you personally feel as though has been, I think you touched on it just briefly, about the impact of it, but also the student response to it in the places that it's been so far?
Okay, so I feel like whenever there is you know, an exhibit, at least I see this mostly in Dreadnought. Whenever there is an exhibition that's up in the atrium, students will, you know, glance, be like, oh, what's this? And I would hope the fact that there is a QR code sort of made it, I guess, a bit more, you know, I guess, eliciting a bit more curiosity. I haven't gotten student feedback directly, except for, you know, from one student who told me, oh, this is really cool. Haven't seen anything in Greenwich like this yet, you know. Not, I guess, also mentioning their liking Black History being brought out of Black History Month. So, you know, that was really pleasing to hear. Also got a bit of nice feedback from a staff member who named Myrtle, who does a lot of the EDI work. So that was really exciting. One thing that I do believe though is that when I relaunch it in its fuller form, you know, with all of the items up there and hopefully in gallery space, that it would elicit a lot more attraction. And the reason I say that is because, you know, when it was launched around now, some students were still finishing their exams. There are also several history months that are going on right now. February is a really, really loaded time. And so I hope it would give time, I guess, for appreciation. But like I said, this is a sustainable piece. And, you know, I am happy with it, you know, even if I don't see the immediate responses from students, to know that this is something that can be recycled again and again and again, and that students, even long after I've left Greenwich, would be able to look at it and learn from it. That honestly makes me very happy, because this is something that I'm very passionate about.
I can definitely perceive that. Thank you. Okay, great. So moving forward, Mental Health Day, or rather University Mental Health Day, because I presume there are many mental health days. So according to your report, you'll have a finalization of the activities that you'd like to be holding for that on the 23rd, and it is the 23rd. So what's the update on that?
So the events, sorry, my screen blacked out for a bit. So the events are actually, the events list is actually put together by the university. I was just concerned that their events list didn't have enough online options, and thinking about how that might be a bit difficult for, you know, I don't know, students with caring responsibilities, you know, students who are commuting, can't necessarily make it onto campus. So what I did was I identified the problem, I raised it, and to the person who is organizing it, I told her, listen, I would be more than happy to host something online from, you know, the SU side, even if it's something like a craft afternoon. You know, I love a bit of origami, I love a bit of illustrating. I was like, I'd be more than happy to present that. I just feel as though there should be an online offer. I am yet to, I'm not, my inbox has been, you know, going out of whack. So I'm not sure, I'm sure she must have sent an email this afternoon regarding the finalized events. But even if it's not on the finalized list of events, because like I said, I'm not the person who's actually organizing the mental health day. I said that this would be something I'd want to host. If it's not going to be hosted as part, you know, as part of the university's list of events, I would genuinely be happy to just organize it as, you know, as coming from the SU. And that's something that still stands, because I do think there should be some sort of online offer.
Alrighty, that's actually a bit more of clarity, actually, because that makes a bit more sense if it's something that's being held by the university rather than by the union. So that's okay.
Yeah.
That's helpful. Okay, so moving towards the work being done towards well, not Global Greenwich, cross-cultural work. There we go, since we're doing name changes. I think that's quite positive. It's not really a question, it's more of just the remark. Seeing a lot of the work that's been done with cultural societies, you were speaking with Jabed about this earlier, there's a lot of positive response to it. And the thing is that, for instance, there are a lot of international students who are based at Medway, and I can tell you that they've actually been really, there's a very good consensus in the inclusion that they feel, which they hadn't felt henceforth. So that is something that I'd like you to know. It's a good response.
That's brilliant. And just add, in that cross-cultural awareness and inclusion, one thing that I do want to include in my reports going forward is faith. So I've been working, so obviously I have gotten in non-alcoholic options. Of course, we have a lot of students that don't drink for whatever personal reasons, medical reasons, but I think it's really important to make clear this is a game changer for Muslim students or students of really any faith who don't drink, for faith purposes. There are tons of them. And I didn't make it quite clear. I said non-alcoholic options. I mean, the low deck does have non-alcoholic options, but when I say newer options, I mean non-alcoholic alcohol options. So we have alcohol-free gin, we have alcohol-free wine now. And you might trying to be doing dry January, why and gin January, you should be able to do them at the same time. So that's something I'm really excited about. But one thing that I've also been working on that I haven't mentioned is faith spaces. So last ILS meeting, which I don't usually attend, Jabed usually attends, there was concern about some students praying in the library in the open library spaces because their classes are too close together and they can't make it to Dreadnought to pray there. And so I raised that as a concern. I'm yet to hear from them in the next ILS meeting what the options are, because there is high demand in the library. We can't book out an entire room, but I was thinking it might be useful to at least let students know, okay, if you're in Dreadnought in the basement level towards this wall, you can pray around there, because we also don't want to block passageways for students. I just think for the benefit of the praying students and the students who are using the space, it would be really useful just for peace of mind for both parties. I've also been working with estates on finding alternative Avery Hill prayer spaces, because ISOC have expressed a lot of concern regarding that. I've been given a confirmation that a new prayer space will be provided in Avery Hill as in the summer, but I'm working with Hannah from Estates and finding a shorter term solution. So yeah, I'd be happy to update you guys about that, because this is a recent concern. I'd be happy to update you guys about that in the next Scrutiny Panel. So yeah, and in terms of other cross-cultural work, I have been trying to this is around my feeling all large cultural groups in Greenwich across all campuses need to be represented. So I've been trying to help with the erection of a Middle East and North African society in Greenwich, but also in Medway, since the current one isn't active and you have a lot of students asking questions. So I've been working closely with Claire Friday in sorting that out.
All right. Well, actually, you make a very striking point. I'm biased because faith is something that is dear to my heart. But you make an incredibly valid point, because if we're speaking about culture, what is a nation? A nation is not a country. A nation is a collection of people with common ideologies. Faith itself is a nation. Faith itself is a culture. But let's not get philosophical about that. But yes, that is definitely something that I'd be interested in being updated on for next panel. So I'd like to see how that goes. Okay, cool. So moving to your Know Your Student Rights campaign. Now, this is something that has sparked a lot of interest. Well, I'm very interested in this campaign personally, because I think it's an initiative that is very much necessary in improving that engagement, that liaison, that bridge between officers, the union, and actual students. So I suppose what I wanted to ask a bit more about is, beyond how's it going, have the other officers also, taken this stance of, okay, I'm going to visit this space and be available on this day for this many hours to just consult students, or has that not just been branched out yet?
So when I first raised it to the officers in one of our Monday morning meetings, I asked them whether this would, because like I said, this is a personal project that I'm working on, but I guess it was like an open invitation. If you want to join me in this, or if you want to do it in your own time, please do. I think it could really, be a game changer, because one thing that I noticed is when I work in Stockwell Street, that's actually when I get the most engagement from students, just talking to me and being like, so my personal tutor is not responding. So the other officers absolutely did express interest. Are they taking out certain chunks of their time and dedicating it to engagement? At the moment, I don't think so, just because they're all working on their own campaigns. However, I don't doubt that this is something that they do when they do get the chance. So Jabed, for example, during his lunchtime, sometimes he, like there are students outside the office, he can go and speak to a few of them. And it's all like bits of engagement like that. And based on what I've experienced so far, and also the Medway Student Forum, which kind of operates at the moment in a similar capacity, us basically just going around to students, talking to them, taking down notes. It's a model that works. And, I've said this before, I don't think there is, the holy grail of student engagement. And I feel like it's a question as old as time, like how does an STU get more and more students to engage? I think it really is just a matter of us trying out loads of different things. And although this does take time, I think that it could be really valuable to just go about, talk to students, be like, by the way, I'm your officer. If you have anything, feel free to message me. It's really, really helpful. So yeah, and definitely I have gotten feedback here and there, in Stockwell Street, in Dreadnought, in the hub. So yeah.
Definitely. I think that's quite important, because you mentioned it there, that weird balance between how do I actually get student engagement, how do I do it? Because the answer is not a survey. And I think this specific thing could be incredibly strategic with the amount of impact you get from it. And I suppose something that I wondered was how you can be, I guess, more intentional about it. Of course, there's only so much you can do towards it, because, for instance, you will have lots of things that you need to be getting on with. It's not necessarily that you can say that, okay, for these 2 hours on a Wednesday afternoon, I'm going to be right here. But I think something that would be quite helpful is possibly maybe on the social media channels, just, saying that, oh, I'm going to be in XYZ location tomorrow. If you need to, have a conversation or whatever. I think being kind of upfront in that way would see an even greater increase in that sort of engagement. And I think this is the avenue of getting that organic student relations thing going. And that's something that brings quite a lot of joy to my heart. But yes, in our remaining time, because we've only got a couple of minutes left timetabled for this session, I suppose, in summary, in short conclusion, I would like to ask, so what are your plans for towards the end of this particular officer year and the wrap up of the projects that you have lined up for this term? What would be your work towards finalizing your legacy in this year?
Okay, so there are 3 things that are sticking out in my mind, and it definitely does make me nervous thinking about it, because I have a few months left, but there are some things that I want to secure. So one of the things is, I guess, getting the activism hub up and running. I know that this isn't going to be something that we're going to, see the fruits of in my officer time. But it's something that Zoe and I really want to get the ball rolling on. So that's one thing that I definitely want to, see happen. Another thing is the equal access to uni work. What would that look like? I guess just having, in the beginning of my officer year, so in like, June, August time, this wasn't equal access to uni, wasn't something that people knew about. But after that little demonstration we had a piece on BBC Radio 4. We had more and more people talking about it. So I guess what that would look like is just having, equal access to uni on more and more people's tongues, people understanding what alternative student finance is. I guess just creating noise about it and having the Greenwich student body really, have it be something that they're conscious of and that they can take themselves and petition for. And the last thing is the BDS work that we're doing in Greenwich. One thing that I really do want, I understand very well that it's not very common for universities to adopt boycott, divestment sanctions, but it's common for unions too. And our union did last year. So one thing that I really do want to see is just, I guess, similar to equal access to uni, just creating enough noise and enough consciousness in the student body that they can sort of take that work on themselves. And like I mentioned in the report, seeing if working to get the university to divest from HP products, that would be a gigantic win. But yeah, we'll see next scrutiny panel how that's gone. But yeah, I'm very excited for the next few months, but also terrified. So I'm just trying to keep my head down in the work and hopefully execute some stuff before I go.
All right. Okay. Great. Awesome. Okay. So for the sake of time, 5:59. Okay. We're gonna stop there. And of course, we'll get back to you with some actions. And then if there are any concerns or issues that you'd like to raise, of course, there are channels where you can get in touch with us. But thank you very much for making yourself available, and we shall see you soon, I imagine.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Present and lovely as usual.